Hey, welcome to Mineral Talks Live, the weekly live webinar that brings you in-depth and in-person interviews with the mineral people from around the world. Mineral Talks Live is brought to you by a joint effort among the Mineralogical and Geological Museum at Harvard University, the Society of Mineral Museum Professionals, and Blue Cap Productions. Tune in every Wednesday and stay connected to your mineral world. Now, broadcasting live from beautiful Honolulu, Hawaii, the land of aloha, ukuleles, and shakas, this is Mineral Talks Live. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you. Thank you for tuning in to our show. Today is Wednesday, May 5th, 2021, and we'd like to wish you a happy Cinco de Mayo. Have a drink, celebrate, have some fun today. You're watching Mineral Talks Live, the weekly mineral talk show broadcasting to you live every Wednesday. I'm Brian Swoboda. I actually am. President of Blue Cap Productions, and together con mis increíbles socios, Dr. Raquel Alonso Perez from the Mineralogical and Geological Museum at Harvard University, and Dr. Eloise Gaillou from the Society of Mineral Museum Professionals, also known as the SMMP, we want to welcome you to the show and invite you to come back every week. Our goal in producing this program is to focus on bringing together all the different facets of our mineral world, from curators and curatrix to collectors, dealers, miners, researchers, artists, and the media that serves us all. We hope that in doing so, we show our audience how diverse our little mineral world really is, and we allow everyone a better perspective of what others do in this world. As an audience, we invite you to participate and interact with the show throughout the live program. There are two ways which you can do this, and both are located at the bottom of your screen in the form of buttons you'll see in your Zoom interface. The chat feature allows you to type messages to everyone watching and participating in the show. So when you first sign on, feel free to fire off a chat message to everyone telling us where you're from. If you have thoughts, comments, or just want to cheer us with a drink, this is where you can do it. Now, during the interview, my guests and I may not see all your chat messages, but both Raquel and Eloise will be very active in those chats. So look for their comments and links. When appropriate, either Raquel or Eloise may address us directly with some of your questions. So if you have a question on what we're discussing, this is the place to ask it. The second way to interact is with the Q&A function. This allows you to submit kind of general questions that we'll try to answer at the end of the interview. Finally, at about 40 minutes in the program, you'll see a little window pop up on the screen asking a bunch of questions for our weekly poll. This is one of our favorite parts of the show, as it allows us to learn small, random, and oftentimes interesting little facts about our guests. And now, let's head over to the other side of the country, to a place nicknamed Vacation Land. And no, I'm not talking about Hawaii. I'm talking about the only place in the world where you can order lobster at McDonald's. Yes, the great state of Maine. And actually, in honor of lobsters, I'm wearing my red Aloha shirt today, lobster matching. In the western part of the state is a little town called Bethel that's only about 13 miles from the border of Vermont. And in this picturesque town is the finest science museum in the entire state, the Maine Mineral and Gem Museum. As many of our viewers know, in the mineral world, Maine is famous for many of the wonderful tourmalines that have come out of there. And this museum certainly shows off some great pieces from those areas. But this museum is also one of the finest meteorite museums in the world too. Sounds interesting, eh? We thought so too. And that's why we've invited Executive Director Barbra Barret and Curator Dr. Carl Francis to be our guests on today's show. Barbara, Carl, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Well, great. How's the weather out there right now?
Drizzly, cool, and a little dreary. So we're hoping that lights our fire a little today.
Well, glad to see that you have power back. You had a little bit of a panic last night.
Yeah, we had a blackout in a good part of the state here, and lights are on, and we're ready to roll.
Right on. Barbara, let's start with you. I always like to turn back the clock on our guests. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you first got involved with minerals and how that eventually led you to the Maine Museum.
Wow. Well, I mean, it's sort of like right time, right place, but never expected. I never once in a million years, about 10 years ago, thought I would be sitting here next to Carl in the mineral world and rather immersed in it at this point. But my background is really in outdoor experiential education. And I worked for a school called Outward Bound for a really long time. It took me all over the country and all over the world. And what it really did was teach me how to work with people and assemble teams and think outside of the box. And I luckily lived across the pond from a small 90-acre pond, not the Atlantic Ocean, from our founders, Mary McFadden and Larry Stifler. And they were my neighbors and my friends. And basically, they had this idea. I caught wind of it, and I had asked if I could help them do some oral histories. And then that one thing led to another. I got asked if I would step in and help assemble a team and bring the mineral community together to jump on board. And I don't know, all of a sudden, here I am next to Dr. Carl Francis, my friend and mentor, and running a museum now. Nothing I ever expected.
That is fantastic. What a great story. So you actually came from completely outside, dealing more with people, which is so critical in any museum, and you kind of came into the mineral world that way. That's fantastic.
You know, I had a couple of crystals when I was like a young teenage hippie, and that was the extent of my mineral experience. And the first time I said hydroxyl herderite, I just looked over at the person next to me and said, "Did I just say that?" So things have changed.
You didn't burst into song when you heard it?
I don't have a song for that one, but if you do, I'm ready to hear it now.
Well, you know, when I think of your days in crystals back in the hippie times, you know, the age of Aquarius comes to mind, you know, when the moon is in the seventh house. I can see you're laughing. You know what I'm talking about. Hey, Carl, anyone in the mineral world needs little introduction to you. You're the author of numerous great articles on tourmalines, and you're the former curator at the Harvard Museum. You preceded Raquel. Let's turn back the clock and why don't you tell us how you got started in minerals and how you ended up at the Maine Museum?
Well, I've been really lucky to spend a whole life in minerals. Back in the late 1950s, at the end of my first grade year in the summertime, we were in the Berkshires in Western Massachusetts, and my grandmother reached down and picked up a cobble of smoky quartz that became my first specimen.
Cool.
And then I got a copy of the Golden Nature Guide to Rocks and Minerals, a little black book that cost $1 back then. And that was the beginning. And I collected minerals and I collected minerals. Went to Amherst College and got a degree in geology. But they had a museum, and I got a student assistantship in the museum, and I've been in the museum world ever since. I have been really, really fortunate in life to have transformed my hobby into my profession, and it's continuing. This has just been a great gig with my good friend and leader over here, Wonder Woman.
You guys are kind of like the dynamic duo there.
Well, we always say here that the 4 years at Harvard was just training for him to come here.
I did an internship at Harvard.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Tell us a little bit about the history of the Maine Mineral Gem Museum, and then let's go on a tour.
All right. Well, I'll kick it off, I guess. Yeah. Mary and Larry, who I mentioned before, they are landowners here in Maine. They live down in Massachusetts, but I think in the early 70s, they bought their first piece of land in Maine, and that piece of land eventually grew until they bought the historic Bumpus mine. For those of you who aren't aware of the giant beryl crystals that were discovered there, they came from this mine that was available and contiguous to property that they already owned. And Larry is a collector, and he collects all sorts of different things. And Mary, she likes to collect people, we say. But this mine, they've collected some great people. Here we are, and there's so many more around us. But inspired him to start collecting minerals, and then learning about the history of the mine, and immediately decided that this was something he wanted to share with the public, especially with regional school kids, to bring them to the mine site and for them to be able to share in that history and to learn about local geology and to kind of, get people thinking about science and history all at the same time through this mine they purchased. And they introduced probably, 3,000 kids to this place at this point. And, one thing led to another, and they started collecting minerals, and they thought maybe we should have a small museum at the local historical society here, a couple hundred square feet. And, what I like to say is that the content often drives the design. And pretty soon, Larry's collection of minerals and meteorites landed us here in this 15,000 square foot building. And so, their vision and passion for creating something and trusting people to help them create something, and, providing a blank canvas for us all to dream. We're all now sitting at the museum, and they are visionaries and extraordinarily generous people to be able to help make this place happen.
Fantastic. Speaking of visionaries, I've got a great image that I want to share here. This is this image I like to call the serious straight man. Tell me about this.
Well, we spent quite a number of years developing the concepts and designing the museum. And so here I am with a mock-up of the museum. This is a picture.
Now, this was built from the ground up?
Well, the building on the right was built in 1890. It was the first significant building built in Bethel since the Civil War.
Oh,
the
wow.
building on the left rather resembles of which there are a number in the village here of Bethel. And then the building in the middle connects the two of them. So we have 3 buildings in all.
Gotcha.
We began to occupy the place in 2014 and opened up to the public on 12/12/19.
Well, wonderful. Well, I know that I have a beautiful shot. This looks like a winter shot of when the museum opened to the public.
Absolutely. It was in the 20s that day, but it was cool, and people waited very patiently for an hour or so before the next picture.
It wasn't cool, it was very cold.
Very cool.
Woohoo!
And so there's Mary and Larry, Barbara, having just cut the red ribbon.
One thing I love about this is the wrought iron bars that you have on the window with the crystals integrated into the design of the bars. I love that. That is so creative. And look, who's that in the middle? I am the champion, my friend. Sorry, this is going to be the first musical Mineral Talks Live we've ever had. And there's the actual ribbon cutting ceremony.
And that's Mary and Larry, our founders.
And there's another great shot of them.
Yeah. Sitting in front of the big barrel crystal from the Bumpus that is on long-term loan from the American Museum of Natural History.
Thank you, George Harlow.
Yeah, thank you.
Right on. And as soon as the museum opens up, the American Museum, we're going to try to get them on the show here. I'm going to go ahead and cut away to a photo of, or an image of the inside of the museum there. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about the way it's designed here and what we have available.
Good.
It's an exploded image showing the 3 floors. You enter through the museum store. That's the front door on Main Street, but we have a back door that brings you into the reception area, which is number 1. And then go to number 2 for the reception desk, and then into the galleries. All the exhibits are in the left-hand building, the Kennett building, on the first floor and the second floor. As you come back through into number 18, it's over the store and reception areas, the Meteorite gallery, and there's a back staircase at number 15. Well, it takes you down the stairs and back into the lobby and reception area. And then on the right, we have what we call the Discovery Gallery. On the left-hand side are study collections as well as minerals on shelves. And on the right-hand side, there's about 1,000 specimens from Maine in the drawers there, organized alphabetically by town. So that's a free part of the museum, and it's got a lot of depth, so you can spend a lot of time there. In the basement is a research lab manned by Al Falster and Skip Simmons when he comes to town.
Right on.
Our offices and a library space. So that's the building.
Terrific.
We'll take a tour through the exhibit gallery. So we're going to start about where number 3 is. and charge through first floor, second floor, through the Meteorite Gallery, back down the main staircase. And I don't know if we have pictures of the Discovery Gallery or not.
I think we have a video of the Discovery Gallery, and just so that people know, what we're going to do is there is very poor reception throughout the exhibit area, so we're going to play a series of videos that is going to walk everybody through, and then after each video, Barbara and Carl will have a chance to comment on it and also answer any questions that people may have. So let's go to the first video here.
Just a quick walkthrough.
So the faux mine. And here we have the greeter specimens of spectacular gem minerals from Maine. Turning left, we go into a geology and pegmatites, explanation of pegmatites, because most of the minerals come from pegmatites. Here is a felspar mine and a blasting experience. More about felspar, which is the principal economic product of the pegmatites. And then to the Bumpus Quarry, which you know from Barbara, the mine owners own. And then mica. Mica was a secondary product, but not unimportant. Go ahead.
Oh, well, here we have a cross section. This is our diorama. Underground is a pegmatite after the Havey mine, if you've been there. The rock cycle, which is currently closed because of COVID. Historic mines, Mount Mica and historic Newry. And then here we come. I saw somebody talk about it in the chat. The big find, Eureka, Newry. We have a big collection of specimens from Newry, the largest gem tourmaline pocket in North America from 72. Then we call this contemporary mines, and we focus on 5 different mines that are contemporary post Newry, basically. Up the stairs you go. And then I'm going to let Carl take it over when we get up the stairs. Woo!
Okay, so this is the Maine Mineral Gallery. We call it A to Z because the minerals are arranged alphabetically with electronic labels. About 273 pieces, 100 plus species, a very strong selection. Then a reproduction of the famous Parham store and their collection.
There's Stan Parham. Say hi.
And then Frank Parham's collection over facing the store. Then the upper part of the diorama, and then into lapidary. So we introduced the methods of lapidary, and we have some historic equipment.
I hope you're not getting dizzy.
Well, Raquel is. That's why we don't hear from her right now.
Okay. And our sphere collection. And here we turn into the Maine Hall of Gems. Everything here is from Maine, with most attention to tourmaline, beryl, and quartz. There's some jewelry as well.
And viewers, don't worry, we're going to go back through some of these galleries with different videos, so we'll get a better understanding of what's there.
Yeah, there you go.
All
yeah,
right.
That was a quick walkthrough, I'd say.
That was a very quick walkthrough. One thing that I noticed, and I've seen in the other videos, and I think they're mentioned in the videos, is the use of technology. I mean, you think for a small science museum like yours, everything would just be static displays, but you have extensive use of, we saw lots of big screens. There are iPads for all the labels. It's very, very interactive, and it's interesting, very interesting to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're very proud of that. This is a small town, but you're visiting a world-class museum thanks to our wonderful exhibit designer, Jay Paulus from Bath, Maine. So he deserves a lot of credit for some of the visionaries.
Well, and we didn't want to just have a bunch of cases with minerals and locality labels. We wanted people to engage with the exhibits. And so took our time and decided to take the plunge into the digital world, which, you know, is sometimes frustrating, but we're really happy with the results because people can choose to learn what they want to learn and come back for more.
We also plunged into the video world. Barbara started by doing oral histories, and we videotaped more than 60 people, local people who are this story. And we've used those videos throughout the gallery. We like to we use the phrase peopling the museum. And this museum is different than most natural history museums, because we really emphasize the role of the people who mined and who collected or who sold the minerals, the gem cutters. Everybody's represented.
I love that. And you're preaching to the choir, because when it comes to telling stories, being able to see the face of the person telling the story makes such an incredible difference in the retention of that story and the impact of that story. So the fact that you guys have preserved the stories of past miners and people related to the Maine mineralogical and geological history is so critically important. It really is. So kudos on that.
Thank you.
Okay, let's jump to a photo here. Tell us what this is. I know what it is, but tell the viewers.
Well, it's a faux mine entrance, but you looked through to see the iconic specimens, really, the very best that we have of the gem minerals from Maine. So why don't you go on to the next one, Brian, and we can show
Sure.
individual
Well,
cases.
just let me back up for one quick second. We're kind of going back to the very start of the video tour that you saw. So we're now entering into one of the main galleries, and we saw this quickly with the video, but now we'll get a little bit more time to appreciate it.
People should note the headline on that, and it's every specimen has a story.
It says every discovery.
Every discovery has a story, and so we're very, very much about that.
That's 100% true. That was one of the founding principles behind Blue Cap Productions, that behind every mineral specimen is a great human story. So we're in sync here. I love it. Cue synchronicity, please. Come on, Barbara.
So
I'm in awe of these photos. I can't sing right now.
So we start off with 5 specimens, and this is a very large beryl crystal with a complementary gemstone. It's local. Next, Brian. Amethyst. Most of the amethyst that Maine's known for is from pegmatites, but this was from a hydrothermal vein found when a summer camp was excavating to put in a sewer system. It's from Altman Prospect down in Sweden, Maine. Phil McCrillis mined this stuff in the late 1980s, and so quite a large specimen. And this is really notable because the amethyst is on white quartz, and so you can distinguish the localities very readily because of the contrast with the matrix.
Wonderful.
Next.
I love that.
Smoky quartz. This is a historic specimen, probably collected about 1905 from the Barrett quarry down at Poland. And the other property mining the same pegmatite is Jeff Morrison's Havey quarry, which you'll hear and have heard so much about. And so we have a rough and cut, a large flawless sphere, and a large smoky quartz crystal, which are more than 100 years out of the ground.
Wow.
And this was so surprising to me. I didn't know that Maine had produced such a fine topaz crystal. Down at Harvard, they have a larger one, but it's just a narrow tip. And this we got from the West Coast. We have been repatriating Maine specimens from around the country and across the world. Next. And this is the big story. In 1972, amateur collectors digging in an old mine found the largest pocket of gem tourmaline ever found in North America. The crystal on the right is about the same size as the Jolly Green Giant, and the specimen on the left shows a cross section. And most of these crystals were just filled with rubellite in the cores and had a thin skin of green tourmaline around them and green tourmaline at the tips. So the 1972 Nuri find is something Larry latched on to very early on and is one of the big stories that we tell on the first floor of the museum.
Fantastic. Okay, what are we looking at here? I mean, it obviously a very interactive portion of your display.
Well, feldspar is what paid the bills for the mining for so long, for more than a century. And so this is a reproduction of a feldspar quarry, but we've added a big video showing a blasting experience. Not only does it have the the audio, but you can also feel the air popping out at you as the experience proceeds.
I love that. I could imagine the shock of the people seeing it for the first time. And again, going back to my earlier comment about interactivity, well, this isn't completely interactive. Well, I guess in a way it is, but I mean, just look at the size of that screen there. That's quite large.
Push down the plunger.
Oh, you have to push down? Okay. I see the plunger right in front of that the young girl right there.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
The young girl with the broken finger.
This really gets people engaged, and they know that this is not going to be a dull experience.
You know, but the fact that they have to do a physical action, then the video starts playing, but then they also get a physical reaction, the blast of air. That's the kind of thing that just draws people in. So at that point, you've got them captured. They're standing there watching to the end of the video.
Yeah.
Brilliant idea. Okay. The next is a, I don't know if you want to set this up, but this is your assistant curator who's going to take us on a tour of another one of the areas there.
Yeah, so Miles Felch, he's our assistant curator. He started out as an intern here, was a geology student at the University of Maine at Farmington. And so he's going to show us a few of the galleries pretty quickly. And he is standing now in front of the diorama downstairs. And, go ahead, play it.
And so here we are at the two-story diorama, which the bottom floor really introduces a lot of information about granitic pegmatites, particularly those that are gem-bearing, that have microlithic cavities or pockets. And so we have a couple different screens that are set up here. This one is more interactive, that allows you to kind of work or explore what you see in the diorama, whereas the two tablets or the two screens adjacent to that one have a lot of deeper content that deal with the different Earth systems, which is something that's kind of embedded in the next generation science standards. So I'm inspired to work with those. So scrolling through these, you find content that is related to those different Earth systems: geosphere, atmosphere, biosphere, and hydrosphere. And there's more upstairs. What else is up there?
Now, one thing I love about that, and if you missed it, rewind the video back when I post it, but Miles is showing some display on that main vertical screen, and he touches something, and on the wall, a pocket, which when you look at normally, it's in the dark, and it just looks like part of the wall, but it's backlit, and all of a sudden it becomes visible and filled with tourmaline. What a great idea. I mean, people have just got to be engaged by that. And I imagine there's more than one pocket there. Is that right?
There are.
Yeah, there's a pocket that's already been opened and cleaned out, and there's a hammer and chisel that are lying in the pocket. So you have the before and after. You see the after, and then you learn about the before as the unopened pocket. And so that's the key thing. We really have to teach people about pockets, because that's where all the crystals come from.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Okay, let's go back to Miles and let's look at the next video here.
Hey, I'm Miles Felch, assistant curator here at the Maine Mineral Gem Museum, and we're in the A to Z gallery, where we have decided to move from normal traditional labeling with specimens in order to put a lot more content, or associate a lot more content with the specimens you see in the cases. So in A to Z, we have a little over 270 different specimens and a little over 100 different species represented here. And so folks, when they come up to the iPads, they'll see we have the case in front of them, and they can just kind of select that specimen. They can rotate it around. Some of these pictures, if you're familiar with the Orbit View camera, we use that to get this 360 image imaging. But with each piece, what's great about the electronic labels is we don't clutter the cases with a lot of information, and we can really do things like people the specimen. So we can talk a lot about provenance, for example, who collected it, who did they sell it to. We can also, with each specimen, we've included a locality bio with that, so there's a little bit more information specifically about the locality from which that specimen came from. Of course, traditional diagnostic properties of minerals, that kind of information as well included.
So many questions after seeing that video. Let me start with, what was behind the decision to put it to organize the minerals from A to Z?
Science can be intimidating, Brian. And so if you organize it alphabetically, people who have some knowledge, maybe of birthstones, but not of a lot of mineralogy, can find anything that they know about pretty readily. So that was the rationale for A to Z, is to get away from the Dana system completely and make it really approachable by the general public.
For me, when I first saw that, I was imagining kids running around and trying to find the minerals that correspond with the beginning of their name. So I would look in the B section, like, ooh, here are the B minerals. Those are the Brian minerals. Do you find that happening with the kids that come through the museum?
We've actually caught a few of them on tape, like, they pick a letter and they do absolutely relate it if they can find something from their town, if they're from Maine. So there are different little lessons throughout the museum that depending on your age, like with the upstairs of the diorama, it's we veer off of the minerals for sure and into biology. But there's a bird, the kids can identify the Maine state bird or the Maine state flower. So we've tried to think about all ages here.
Yeah. Larry's a real visionary, and he really speaks about trying to do from preschool to graduate school range, which is an extraordinary attempt to reach everybody.
Certainly. Now, what about well, let me first ask you, has it always been you give the viewers stylists, or is that a result of the COVID?
Absolutely COVID. We built a high touch, highly interactive museum, and then we had a pandemic and kind of rocked our world, for lack of better terms. And we had to rethink how we have done everything, because we wanted people to touch things and interact with things. And all of a sudden we're not allowed to touch anything anymore. So we issue styluses to people when they come in, and then they, check them in on their way out, and we sanitize them. And we've done everything that, if you're in the museum world, has, to meet the CDC standards. It's been a challenge, but it's working.
Wonderful. Now, on the display, Miles was showing us how, using the stylus, you can take the specimens and rotate them 360 degrees. That has got to be fascinating for the people visiting there. Tell us some of the reactions you've seen from people using that.
Well, we absolutely wanted to make them interact with it, but show them the backside of it. I don't know how many times I've been standing in front of something and I want to see all of it. And you talk about, you could put a mirror behind it, but then, how many little mirrors you're going to have sitting on shelves, and how tacky does that get really quickly? So, I think I was in Tucson and I saw the orbit view, several years ago, and I'm like, we could use that for our labeling. And, worked with Jock from Mineral Desk years ago to get us started on using the whole 360 thing. And we're really happy we did. I can tell you it took a really long time to do all of that. But
I bet.
Nonetheless, it again gives something for the visitor to do, to engage and see the other side of the mineral.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Now, all that great information that you have there on the display, is that available to people if they come back and they want to peruse the collection online?
Not yet.
Okay.
But it's a goal. We want to digitize as much of the collection as we can and make it available online, and have some resources for educators as well.
I love it. I love it, because I think that as you say, makes it more accessible, but it doesn't negate the desire to see it in person. There's nothing like seeing mineral specimens live in person. So it actually serves as a teaser to get people to come in, become more familiar with the mineral before they come in, and then come in to look at it live. And I know that a lot of those pieces are fabulous Maine treasures. And speaking of Maine treasures, tell me about this one here.
That's an example of the tourmaline from the 1972 find at the Dunton Quarry. It shows the basal termination, and I actually have the specimen right here.
Yes, let's cut back to Carl here. There we go.
And
let's hold it a little higher, Carl, if you can. There we go. You broke it.
Oh, shucks.
I know.
Send us the small one and we won't tell anybody.
And we're about people here. This was in Jesse and Joan's collection, Jesse Fisher in San Francisco. And Jesse and Joan got it from Charles Key, who was one of the partners in the Plumbago Mining Corporation.
Fantastic. So it's got a great history behind it too. Fabulous colors on that. I'm going to go back to the photo there. I mean, just incredible. I love that green cap. Now, when did this come out?
1972, Brian.
1972, not that long ago. It was about the same time as the blue caps. Okay, yeah. What about, tell us about this one.
This is a watermelon cross-section of one of those crystals, and Maine has become famous for these because of the 1972 find. Cross-sections have been cut from Mount Mica material and Havey material. Actually, the term was coined with regard to the Havey material like in 1908, but the abundance of tourmalines from 1972 was wonderful. And this is not cutting material, not it's too flawed for that, but okay. Cutting slices made wonderful specimens, and we have a whole display of these downstairs. If you look closely at this one, you can see in the red that the color is not uniform. They're actually phantoms in different shades of red, showing different growth stages. And of course, green is just the latest stage.
That's stunning. Who could not fall in love with that, really?
And we make jewelry out of that stuff up here. Watermelon tourmaline jewelry is sort of a local thing.
Well, that screams out to be made into a piece of jewelry, and we'll come back to that when we're talking about when we talk about the gift shop there. Let's look at one more of these fabulous Maine treasures.
And that's a tourmaline from a quarry that most people have never heard of. It's Mount Marie Quarry. It's also in Paris, where Mount Mica is known, and this has been operated for many years by Dennis Durgan. If you, I have one in my hand that. You can see as well. Dennis mined for a long time before he was rewarded with some excellent pockets of tourmaline about 2010 and 11. And Larry was able to get the best of what Dennis had mined for the museum.
That is a superb piece that you're holding up there. Okay, so we started talking a little bit about the jewelry. The next video, Miles is going to take us into the lapidary and cutstone gallery. So let's go ahead and let's play that now.
So here we are transitioning from the lapidary gallery into the Hall of Gems, and marking that transition here, we just have a couple of spin browsers to show you what can be done with either rocks or stones as far as lapidary, but one of these includes a spin browser. You can go through the process of cutting a gemstone. You can do it quickly, or you can do it really slowly, whatever you wish. It's kind of difficult with the stylus, but within the Hall of Gems, so here's the Hall of Gems gallery, and really elegantly done. The light is really just focusing on what's most important here in the gallery, that being the gemstones. And this is another location where we decided to do electronic labeling here again, not to clutter up the cases. And so it's very simple. The information is there's less than what we included in A to Z, but cut weight, who cut the stone, where did it come from, and of course a nice image associated with those for a closer look. And along the walls we have a selection of jewelry using Maine gemstones.
That was some great stuff. How many gemstones do you have in the collection? Uh-oh.
It all depends on how you count, but there are about 100 stones on display, all Maine, and showing the range of colors of tourmaline, and then amethyst, of course, and beryl.
But we have thousands of gemstones in the collection, and we chose the finest to display in the Hall of Gems, of course. Nothing but the best.
Fantastic. And speaking of the best, tell us about these beauties right here.
Well, these are some of the very best that Dennis Durgan mined and had cut by Derek Kostenbach over in Farmington, show the range of colors that he's produced. He's particularly thrilled with that brownish pink that he calls a champagne color.
Which one is that this one here?
Yes, that's the one. Yeah.
Okay.
He thinks that's quite unique, but they're
Beautiful.
Just superlative.
And Brian, you have a picture of one of the crystals from the same color, the champagne, that you might want to, this would be a good time to throw that up. It's out of order, maybe.
You've already shown it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
How's that? How's that for interactivity, huh?
Same part.
Yeah, I love that color. It's one of my favorites.
That is fantastic. 2
centimeters tall.
That's great. So that is the kind of color that gives us this big, beautiful stone in the back here.
In the Hall of Gems, there's 3 cases for each of the 3 species. And so there's a good and a better and a best, the best being the largest. And in the better cases, all of the specimens are from the same locality. So the better tourmalines are all Mount Marie, South Paris, Maine, Dennis Durgan mined.
Wow, Carl, for a second you had me going. I thought you were going to say the 3 cases were the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay. Tell us about these guys here.
Well, that's beryl. We have morganite pink on the right, and then aquamarine in 2 shades to the left. And these are modern cuts. We have some terrific cutters here in Maine. Sean Sweeney over in Bar Harbor, and Derek, Dennis Creaser down in South Paris, and Ben Ashley is actually over in New Hampshire now. But these are the people that we've depended on to generate this collection.
It's fantastic. And then I think we have one more wall.
Oh, we have to talk about the Rose of Maine. In the late 1980s, the Bennett Quarry, which had lain fallow for a very long time, was mined by the Holden brothers. And they blasted and moved a lot of rock, and they opened up a pocket that had the largest morganite, I think, in North America. It was 52 pounds when it was found. And it was quite controversial when they decided to break it up for gem rough. This is a 169, 59 carat flawless gem from that famous crystal.
It is gorgeous.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I think the thing that really is driving home to me what I'm seeing in these photographs and what you have on exhibit is your dedication to the geological and mineralogical history of Maine. And I think especially for the people who aren't that familiar with the quality of material that's come out of Maine, They just have to spend one afternoon in the museum, and they'll come out wearing the Maine is great sweatshirt kind of thing. Great job.
The Rock Me t-shirt that's for sale in the gift store.
What shirt's that?
It says Rock Me.
Rock me. Yeah. We will rock you.
Okay, come on to Maine. This is the 200th anniversary of the discovery of gem tourmaline in North America.
Sell it, Carl. Let's go. Come on. Give us more. Well, now, in addition to kind of honoring and preserving the legacy of Maine, you also have a very, very, very extensive meteorite collection. And I've got a video that I'm going to queue up that's going to show, I think, first the rather impressive video that people see when they walk into the meteorite gallery. And then right after that, we're going to play kind of a quick walkthrough of the meteorite gallery. I think the second video doesn't have audio, so Barbara, maybe you can narrate it as we're watching the video. But first, let's watch the meteorite exhibit or video. Just in case anyone out there is wondering, I did ask Barbara whether or not they tried to license the Pink Floyd soundtrack, Another Brick in the Wall, and it was too expensive. It's crazy. So if any of you have any ins with Pink Floyd, tell them to drop the price. The Maine Museum needs that. All in all, you're just another brick in the wall. Okay.
Yeah.
For the mineral world.
That was definitely more like the dark side of something. And it reminded me of the sound of being in a womb, like what they, play for your baby before it's born. That was very strange, but it does sound a lot better in person. So come to Maine and check it out. The essence of that video is that meteorites tell an epic story about the origins of our solar system. And so it's an introduction to the meteorite gallery, and It is fabulous. Years in the making. The script for that took probably 3 years for everyone to settle on.
Wow.
Carl's rolling his eyes. But nonetheless, like, it's a really great just segue from the other part of the museum into the Meteorite Gallery and into like this really amazing story about what these rocks represent.
No, I love it. You have meteorites from asteroids, from the moon, from Mars. You have it all. So let me roll the next video, and there's no, for sure there's no audio on this video, but Barbara, maybe you can narrate it as we're watching what's going on here.
Yeah, it's a pretty quick trip through. So we enter into the Stifler collection of meteorites, Space Rocks Gallery. We've got things categorized by subject matter, witness falls, and then we go into the different types of meteorites. And so we have exhibits on chondrites, different types of chondrites, the ordinary chondrites, the carbonaceous, we have iron meteorites, we have pallasites, then we have the achondrites, we have a wonderful diagram of a differentiated asteroid. And here we are taking a closer, quick look at the irons and then the beautiful pallasites. We like to call those, gems from space. They're backlit, absolutely gorgeous. Here below the big video is 3 different types of meteorites, which we used to let people touch. Now it all says, please don't touch. Some fine examples under these domes. There's the largest piece of Vesta in that cylinder that we just walked by, which is the largest piece of the second largest asteroid. And here comes Mars. Like, you will not see another collection of Martian meteorites like this anywhere else in the world. What you're looking at is one of the largest, if not the largest collection of Martian meteorites, and definitely the largest on display. And I have a surprise for you later as it regards Mars, so don't forget. We're walking past Vesta, the HEDs, the Howardites, the Eucrites, and the Diogenites. We have a section that's sort of the changing exhibit, seasonal selections, a little story on impacts, and some terrestrial things like tektites and desert glass, and of course the moon. If you haven't heard, the Maine Mineral Gem Museum has more lunar meteorites than all other natural history museums in the world combined. We have over half of all of the lunar material known to exist. NASA having their other big collection, but you probably know they brought that back, where ours were, I like to say, gifts from space.
Fantastic. And what is the largest moon meteorite that you have there?
Well, it weighs just a small 58 kilos, so 58 kilograms. It's pretty big.
And that's 2.2 pounds per kilogram, Brian. So multiply by 2.2.
Thanks for the conversion factor.
Yeah, we like to go metric here, but thanks for that.
Good, you should. I've got a couple other, actually, let's go ahead and have Raquel launch the poll. And Barbara, you may have an image, a window come up on your screen, and you can just go ahead and close that out. You're not supposed to look at that right now. But then we're going to cut back to a couple images inside the gallery. This is obviously where we first kind of came in and saw the first video, because you could see it in the upper left-hand corner there. And I love the looks of this. It feels very otherworldly. It's a wonderful, wonderful way to exhibit these. And I love that even the tables don't have square edges. They're very kind of organic.
Yeah, no, we really spent a lot of time trying to design this so that it would just feel different, because the subject matter is so much different than the minerals. But there is the great narrative arc of geology that exists with the meteorites as well. So again, we spent a ton of time with our exhibit designer looking at different storyboards. And this is what we came up with: kind of spacey, a little bit cosmic, dark colors. And all of the light in the gallery is just in the casework itself, and the lights that are in those individual domes, so that people it's an experience.
I can't wait to come visit it myself. Well, there's another kind of view of the same shot, a little bit wider and vertical.
Yeah, I can't accept the poll.
Oh, sorry. We got a couple pieces there that are killer. This is the mask.
Yeah, that's a Gibeon meteorite, one of my favorites for sure. It's got a couple names. We call it the mass, some people call it the alien. I've heard a few other ones, but truly a spectacular example of Gibeon meteorites, aesthetic iron meteorites, pieces of art. So we have a few great ones on display, including one that's on loan called The Scream that you might have heard of too. Anybody heard of that famous painting, The Scream? That's also in the case, and nothing better than an aesthetic iron meteorite, if you ask me.
Hey, Barbara, where's the photo of the mask with you behind it at a far enough distance where your eyes line up with the two holes? I know you have to have taken it. I've never seen it, but I know it exists.
Oh, and it exists, and I have a really great one of my son. And his little friend, well, when they were little, came by a few years ago, and that was the thing that they were all doing is holding it up. So nonetheless, if you want to come, I will pull it out of the case and I will take your picture looking through the eyes of the mask.
Woohoo! I'm going to bring my boys. I'll put like one of their eyes in one and the other eyes in the other. I love it.
That's awesome.
We really believe in hands-on here.
Oh, no, I mean, we've got a great photo coming up of a young girl actually touching a big moon meteorite. But before we get to that, we got a couple other meteorites that I want you to talk about. Here is one that it's got all kinds of things embedded in it.
Yeah, so this is a great story. This is called NWA 11119. And so NWA stands for Northwest Africa. And this was found in the desert in 2016. Most people didn't first think it was a meteorite at first, and kind of looked it over. And after further scientific investigation, not only determined that it was special because, that meteorite, I mean, look at the pyroxene crystals in that. I mean, it's just so amazing. You can see all of the little green clusters, but that coarse green is also the silica content. Like that meteorite is a staggering, like 30% silica. So that alone is really interesting about that rock, but they also determined that was the oldest igneous rock known to exist on Earth at 4.56 billion years young. But, and if you could cut back to me, Brian, last year, because it's 2021, they found this. This is called Erkchech, and it's Erkchech 002, and it was found in 2020, so we're in 2021 now in the desert. And this one also, these are big clusters of pyroxene. Now, this is the new oldest igneous rock. So the oldest volcanic rock known to exist. And again, just giant sections of pyroxene. And this is an andesite meteorite, which is also really uncommon. So we were able to acquire this recently. And now this is our new oldest volcanic rock.
We're talking about rocks that were formed 2 million years after the solar system was formed. So they're really old things.
Really reaching back into time and just touching the origin of everything. That's, I mean, it like gives me chicken skin just talking about it. That's incredible.
Chicken skin.
Chicken skin. Goosebumps.
So I have another one that I want to show everyone really quick. And I know Larry's out there watching. And Larry, this is the great unveiling. And this is where I get to really work on my triceps and biceps. But
is this the Mars thing that you hinted at earlier?
Yeah. So here's the first time anybody's seen this. But, I don't think we went out looking or intending to have the biggest this or the biggest that. But we've done a really, really good job. Thanks to Larry and our good friend, Daryl Pitt, who he kind of has helped curate the meteorite collection and is a meteorite collector and has been in the field for 30 years. And I'm struggling to get it up, but here we go. This is the largest piece of Mars recently discovered this year, and it's 14.5 kilos. And so I don't think anyone's going to find another piece of Mars like this around anytime soon, but this is just a gorgeous specimen, and it's pretty heavy, very dense, but we are so excited to have this. This is Mars. You can look at it with the rover, but you can see it right here too.
You can touch it there.
Yeah. Woo, it's heavy.
That's amazing. And Mars, correct me if I'm wrong, Mars meteorites get here after asteroids crash into the red planet, and that explosion blows it out of the Mars atmosphere and into space. And then by random chance, it happens to come in. A lot of it probably burns up on entry, but then to have a piece that large exist intact and land on this planet, that's amazing.
It is amazing, Brian.
What is like the second, in comparison, what's the second largest piece of a Mars meteorite in comparison to that? How big would it be?
I don't have all of that data. I could run out to the case, but we have another one out there that's about 2 kilos. And so this was a pretty huge jump in size. When I heard we were getting a really large piece of Mars, and it happened to be the largest, but when that showed up, I mean, my jaw dropped. I was like, wow. I mean, it's significant, and it's right here in Maine.
And it's going to really elbow aside the other specimens. We're going to have to rejigger the whole case.
Oh, we'll do it.
Wow. Okay. I could imagine you doing the happy dance when it showed up. Woo-ah.
Is there life on Mars? You know that one? Come on.
Is this a joke?
David Bowie.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Bowie, Mr. Space Oddity himself. I'm gonna, because I know that we're running out of time. Well, we are out of time, but per tradition, we always go long. I'm gonna cut to a video that we have here of, I think it's Miles down in the Discovery Lab. So let me go ahead and roll that.
All right, so we're here in the Discovery Gallery. This really serves as the open storage for the museum, and it will show like really the entire scope of the museum's collection. So we don't just have Maine minerals here. We have meteorites, as you're aware of. There's Apollo memorabilia. We also have minerals from other parts of the country. So there's a set of drawers that has minerals from different states in the U.S. And so, yeah, we have glass cases up above, drawers down below that hold mineral specimens and other things. And on one whole wall, we have a set of drawers that are organized alphabetically by town, a Maine town, and then by locality, and then again by species. And I'll show you one of my favorite ones for many of you viewers out there familiar with the Discovery. We have the Dunton Quarry and Nurian, so here's just a selection of some of those, but the watermelon tourmaline is characteristic. Yeah. And so up above we've had it was the bicentennial for the state of Maine last year, 1820. It was also the bicentennial for the discovery of tourmaline in the state of Maine, at least first reported discovery. And so we had a Tourmaline Turns 200 exhibit that just showcased a lot of the tourmaline that can be found in the state.
Tell us about the Discovery Gallery. Lots of wonderful stuff, and all those drawers are available for the people to open. I mean, what an experience.
Absolutely. This is our space for giving programs, and so it's a multifunctional space. It's a social space, but we really wanted to have the collections available. Most museums traditionally have, a few percent, less than 5% of the specimens in the collection available to be seen. And so with the open storage concept, the drawers, we're increasing the percentage of our collection that can be accessed, and accessed by people any way they want. They can say, what town do I live in? Where did grandma live? Whatever. Or they can go to, Micah's my favorite locality. Let's go and look at that. So we tried to make it accessible to everybody.
Fantastic, wonderful. And I also know that the museum is a very strong research museum. And I've got a couple of images here, and here's some of the kids looking at some of the research tools that you have here and interacting with it. So go ahead, tell us a little bit about these.
Well, that was Al Foster showing kids, and he's had students from Gould Academy, which is just across the village, in for exercises, lab exercises. And so that's the next picture is a group of students from Gould Academy here doing a project where they take sand from a local stream, separate garnets out from it, and then do work identifying the garnets and trying to figure out what their provenance is. Are they igneous or are they metamorphic in origin?
I love it.
Yeah, the lab really serves as a way to, have this very full circle experience here. It was important from the onset of this project that education be, a part of our foundation. And what better way to have a, working research facility right in the basement of the museum to invite, students from middle school, elementary school, all the way up to college, and for people to come here and do some of their own research projects, but to actually be researching the things that we're displaying. So we are so lucky to be able to have that in the basement of our own museum.
Wonderful. And tell us a little bit about some of, this is some serious research tools here. Tell us about what we're seeing here. And it looks like Al in his black socks is, he's doing something.
Al does not own a pair of long pants.
Who needs it in Maine, right?
He doesn't.
So he's sitting at his souped up scanning electron microscope, and this is his principal analytical tool these days. It's just a wonderful thing, and it has wonderful imaging capabilities. So this is what he primarily uses for identification purposes.
So he's not just trying to tune into PBS there.
No.
And then I love this image. This is obvious. It's a kid looking through a telescope, but this is one of the outreach programs you have.
Yeah, we started a program prior to COVID just called Street Astronomy. And obviously the subject speaks for itself there. But after COVID and the pandemic started, we renamed it and added Spaced Out Street Astronomy, not only because of the subject matter, but to keep people at a distance, make sure they were safe. But we have some really great docents who love astronomy and have helped us create a program. And so periodically we bring people out on the street and show them whatever's on view.
Fantastic. And then I think it's the final image we're going to share. Tell us about your rock garden that you have here.
Well, this is a 24/7 exhibit of rocks from around Maine, but they've been carefully selected to show really interesting features, such as the folding in this rock. And it's an attempt to broaden the geological coverage that we have. Most of Maine's pegmatites are in sort of southwestern Maine. And we've got rocks here from 16 different counties. So it's just really wonderful to have these oversized specimens. These are a meter or more in size and can really be thought about and used for teaching purposes.
It's like a geologic tour around the state of Maine.
It's wonderful. And I'm actually going to go for the obvious joke here and say, it's very nice.
That's excellent.
Okay, I did lie. Final image. Look at the face of this young girl. That is a moon meteorite that she's holding. Tell us the story behind this image.
Well, this was from the 50th celebration of the Apollo landing, but it is the best way to, end this presentation because it's really important to all of us, and especially to Larry, our founder, who I've mentioned a few times, that, again, that people come here and interact and they learn and they, and that there's a level of education that doesn't exist in, other museums around the state or, around the United States, globally, what have you. But one of the things that we want to do is, let people touch things, but also, hand them a piece of moon and a piece of the planet Mars and allow them to have that inner child, which that lovely young lady is expressing so well. Because I think even most adults end up having that expression on their face when you actually hand them a piece of moon or a piece of Mars. I mean, it doesn't happen anywhere else. Often you can touch one under the acrylic, and we have that too. But, our docents, and if Larry's here, he's the one out in the gallery, making sure people don't leave here until they've had an opportunity to touch the moon and Mars.
Larry's our best docent.
Well, I tell you, if I was there holding that piece, I'd have the same look, but I wouldn't be anywhere near as cute as that lovely young lady. Thank you so much. We're at the end of the show. We're going to do our quick fire 5 questions for you. And Raquel, kind of remind me, how did we say that this is going to work? Are they going to arm wrestle to see who answers it, or is it a cumulative answer? I don't recall.
We'll tag team.
Tag team. Okay. All right, then we're going to let Barbara start. These are 5 questions. All of your answers are correct. We are going to see how the viewers have responded to it. So first question, are you ready?
Absolutely.
Okay, that was not the first question, but I realize now that was a question. Okay, first question, preference of wine, red or white?
Tag, you're it.
Oh, well, that's so easy. I wouldn't touch white wine if you paid me.
See, Barbara, I knew there are many, many reasons why I love you so much. Okay, question number 2. This is going out to Carl there. Favorite vacation place, Maine or Massachusetts?
Massachusetts.
Chee-hoo!
Wow.
The cottage in the Berkshires.
Oh, okay.
This one, I'm going to actually have each of you answer individually, because I think I know what the answer is. But here's the question. Barbara, you go first. Minerals or meteorites?
Let me think about that. Do I even need to answer that?
Well, for the viewers, you do.
Okay, yes. I will officially state meteorites.
And Carl, your answer is?
I'm definitely a mineral guy.
Absolutely. Okay, next question. I'm not sure who this is going to go to, so I'm just going to throw it out. You guys yell out whatever answer you want. Gardening or baking?
That's easy for both of us. Gardening.
Easily. Oh, love it. Okay, final question. Here's the big one. Fish and chips or barbecue steak?
I'd rather stay away from both of those.
Oh, but you got to choose one.
Okay, fish and chips.
Fish and chips. Okay. Would lobster have been a better question there?
I would rather eat lobster than steak, yes.
Oh. I'm still blown away by the whole idea of lobster at McDonald's. Yeah, that's a real thing.
Lobster
right?
and blueberry pie. That's Maine.
Lobster blueberry pie. Oh my God.
Yeah, blueberry pie.
Oh. I was like, lobster blueberry pie. I don't know how to react to that.
Let's just say no.
Well, maybe that's going back to the Pink Floyd and Get a Little Higher. I don't know. From what I've been told. Okay. Whew. Time for some of that bubbly, Eloise.
I know, right?
Okay, what have the readers said? Let's go through the 5 questions. Wine, red or white? Barbara chose red. What did the readers say?
The readers were right.
Viewers.
They chose red. Oh my God.
Oh my God, this is so off the rails already.
Oh my God, it's gonna be difficult to go through those questions, I think.
Totally. An hour later, we're still at number 4. Favorite vacation place, Maine or Massachusetts? Carl chose Massachusetts. What did the viewers say?
Well, they chose Maine, 94%. So yeah, we chose them there. Maybe those who arrived a bit early, they would have found the answer, but I guess...
Yeah, I think so. They didn't hear the pre-show conversation. Minerals or meteorites, we have even split, so whatever the viewers said is correct.
Yeah,
or whatever the viewers... What did they say? Was it
70? Yeah, we have 70% minerals and 30% meteorites.
Okay, all right, fair enough. That's acceptable. Gardening or baking? There was no question there what the right answer was. Gardening, obviously. What did the readers?
Gardening, obviously. Yes.
Okay. Why is it obvious?
I don't know. Just, who doesn't love gardening?
Okay. All right. I didn't know if it was something about Maine that you knew of that I wasn't aware of, kind of like the lobster blueberry pie.
We're trying to get rid of too many carbohydrates in our diet. We just want to garden.
I love it. Okay, final question.
The restaurants reopen and not to bake anymore. That's probably why at this point nobody loves baking anymore. We just want to go to restaurants and eat.
Yeah, right.
And drink red wine.
Yes, and eat lobster.
Okay, question number 5. Fish and chips or barbecue steak? We reluctantly went with fish and chips.
Fish and chips it is.
Fish and chips. So I will give the viewers 4 out of 5 on that one. Great job, viewers. Let's go to the Q&A session of the program now. Raquel, what questions do we have to stump either Barbara or Carl?
We had a lot of questions, so bear with us.
Okay.
Yes, before, and Eloise, you feel free to jump in with the questions. I also want to say, Kevin mentioned, and we should know, Carl has an amazing career as a curator, and he also has a mineral name after him, Francite. So we just wanted to point out, and we still ask the Harvard team, we still reach out to Carl Francis, I don't know how often, for feedback and his knowledge. So he's still a great resource for us, even if he moved into Maine. So yeah, thanks for being there for us.
Carl is a great resource to the entire mineral collecting community, and we so appreciate everything that you've done, Carl.
Thank you so much, Brian.
So questions. Okay, going from the beginning, we have Anna. She was really curious to see what's the size of the large buried crystal you showed right at the beginning, the green.
About 20 centimeters.
It's
Perfect. We also have a question about what's the long-term financial and sustainability plan for the museum?
That's not an easy question to answer. Let's move on to the next question.
Well, I will quickly say.
I like the way you handled that, Carl.
No, but as the director, I will insert myself with this one. Excuse me.
She pulled rank.
Well, we are so lucky that we had the support of our founders to create this amazing institution that we all know and love here now, and it's been a gift to the people of Maine and all of our visitors. But we're a nonprofit organization, and we're getting ready to launch the next phase of our capital campaign. Sustainability is on the front burner all the time here because we need to raise money to exist. And if you're not a member of the museum, and if you would like to be, it's really easy to figure out how to do that. But every dollar counts. I don't want to do that big pitch, but everyone needs to raise money to survive. And we're going to have our second part of our capital campaign and memberships, donations, grants, you name it. But naming opportunities, you can name exhibits. You can buy a paver out in that beautiful rock garden under the word nice. So there's lots of ways, but we have different programs to help support the financial sustainability of this place. So sorry to interrupt you, Carl.
Well, let me jump in with kind of a statement and a question. The way that the museum is designed, when visitors first come in, they enter through the museum store. They go around through the exhibit as numbered. From number 12, they go straight upstairs to 13, come back through the Meteorite hall, and at number 19 there is a staircase that leads them back down into the museum store.
Well,
now, one thing that I know is that at the museum store, you sell a lot of jewelry that is created by local artisans using local material. You also have some very, very high-end stuff like Paula Crevichet stuff, but you really, really focus on that supporting the local community. So how much does the museum shop contribute to the bottom line of the museum, and how important is that for you guys?
It's essential, and thank you. We went over time and we kind of lost, I kind of forgot what we were going to talk about, but that's a big one. The store, you enter the museum through the store and you exit for a reason, because one, it is like essentially the subject matter. It's like these beautiful gems are available here. And yes, we want to work with as many regional artisans as we can to incorporate Maine's gemstones into their jewelry style. And so really quick advertisement, watermelon tourmaline and a beautiful cuff. But this, like Paula Crevichet, we love her, and I know you all do too, but this is all tourmaline from the state in this gold cuff. And the store is a huge driver for the financial sustainability of the museum. And so we want people to come here and buy, a piece of Maine and take it home with them. And it can be custom made. Oh, and here's one of my favorites. This is a meteorite piece that's sprinkled with meteorite dust from cutting. And so this actually got stardust on it. Anyway, I feel like I'm doing that jewelry show. I forgot what it is called. The home
QVC or something. Yeah.
Right.
You do very well, Barbara. I like it. Carry on.
And I'm wearing a Deer Hill amethyst. So we have, it's a really unique opportunity to be able to display all of the minerals, but then also to have a really great supply of gemstones and to incorporate those into jewelry. And it's a huge driver for our financial sustainability. So thank you for asking, Brian.
Well, let me add one final thing there. When you were talking about Maine jewelry, if I'm not mistaken, the famous Hamlin necklace is primarily or maybe completely made of tourmaline from Maine. Is that correct?
Yes.
Carl and Raquel?
Absolutely correct. And Raquel's taking very good care of it down in Cambridge. We'd like to have it here, actually, but it would be so appropriate, so close to home.
Maybe one day we can borrow it for a little while. It is beautiful. I mean, look at those colors.
We were planning for the 200-year tourmaline that you were celebrating for the Maine state. We were planning on loaning to you. And
Beautiful. Then
just things went forward. So
You'll have to figure out another reason.
I think we interrupted you before. You were about to say something after Barbara.
I was going to say people can come to the store and pick out gems and then work with the designers to make their own jewelry as well.
Wow, that's fantastic. It's not build your own Barrett, it's build your own jewelry.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very nice.
Is there a song for that? Come on, Barbara, are you thinking of a song? What's going on?
No, I'm just laughing.
Brian, let me carry on through the questions.
Sorry. I'll shut up.
Thank you. So along the same lines of the finance, we have two more questions from Vera. The first one is, are the mines in Maine still open for collectors or scientists? So that's, I think, more from Carl. Give me a second, then I finish the second one, sorry. Is if you get any of where do you get the money for the meteorites and the gem minerals? Is there any funding coming from the States, or is that all privately owned? Thank you.
Okay, the scientific side. There are 3 or 4 pegmatites that are still being operated primarily for gems, and one that's under development as a lithium resource. We know the owners and operators, and we have a good relationship with those. I think that scientifically they are accessible. There are a lot of other places in Maine where you can still come and collect, but are not being commercially worked. Okay. Now, do you want to handle
the second part of that question?
The financial part?
Can you repeat the second part of the question?
Sorry, I should have done it differently. But so where does the funding to acquire material comes from? And I mean, you mentioned it was from the founders, but is there any other financing coming from the state of Maine? Do you get any state support for the museum?
Currently, we haven't got any state support from the museum. And I need to remind everybody that we are brand new. So, we still have a lot of our future ahead of us for raising money and building those relationships because, we opened on 12/12/19. We closed in March because of the pandemic. We closed again in July. We opened again in July, and then we closed again in October because we had this flood. So we've been on this kind of like stop and go approach to the museum. And so we're really looking forward to, what the next year brings, being fully open, being able to work on our educational programs and some of that really important financial stuff. But, the money for the collection, we've had several donations. Mary and Larry, yes, they as founders acquired a lot of this and have donated some of the material. Some of it remains in Larry's private collection. And over the years, I assume that some of that will also be donated to the museum, but the majority of the meteorites on display are from the Stifler collection, the Meteorite collection. A little redundant there, excuse me. But, the future is bright, and there's a lot of bling. So we've got a lot to look forward to.
Good phrase.
Very good. Carl, I think the next few questions are more for you related to pegmatites. The first one is if you know the age of the pegmatites with tourmalines.
The age dating of pegmatites is one of the most current research areas and is really most interesting. They are Middle Paleozoic in age, say 350 to 250 million years old.
Beautiful. Is there any activity at the Fisher Quarry?
There has been. Jim Clannon had the access to that and has cleaned it out extensively. I haven't seen Jim yet this season, but I assume that he's still working it, and he hasn't opened it to the public particularly, but I think that an individual could contact him and perhaps arrange a visit.
Yeah. And one more from Tony Alvine. And it seems like the museum acquired a collection of the late Ray Woodman. Yeah. And if you can tell us more about it and how many specimens are on exhibit.
Ray Woodman worked for the state in the highway department and was a collector of many things, but he assembled probably the most comprehensive collection of Maine minerals. I like to say that Ray dug in every hole in Maine. His collection was purchased by Larry fairly early on, and it's really the foundation of our Maine collection. Everybody owes Ray a great debt of gratitude. He passed away about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
In his 90s.
Oh, thank you. And back to you, Barbara. We have a few questions about the museum. Someone before on the chat, I think it was George Rossman, he asked if you have any fluorescent mineral exhibits and mineral exhibit analysis. If you have any of those two.
An exhibit on analyzing minerals?
I think so.
Yeah, we don't have an exhibit on any analysis of minerals themselves, but we do have a small fluorescent exhibit, and we stuck to Maine minerals for our fluorescent exhibit. So they're not quite as big and colorful, but nonetheless, they glow as well. You can hit the button and magic happens. So yes, who doesn't love glowing rocks?
And then the last one by Chris Robinson. Is the museum able to provide guidance to visitors to sites in the area where they can hunt for specimens?
Yeah, our store staff are so knowledgeable about everything that's for sale in the store, like when it was mined, who mined it, the date it came out of the ground, who cut it, and then also who made the jewelry if it was something that was custom made. But they're also really knowledgeable about the localities that are still open to the public. And there aren't a ton of them, but there are some, and they can help guide people to those. And, and make sure people also know that you don't go mining in somebody else's mine without permission. So yes, absolutely.
Great, thank you. Eloise, any question that I missed or anything?
No, there were just a lot of comments from people saying that they were really pleasantly surprised about the museum. They're all looking forward to being able to travel and visit the Maine Museum. So a lot of thank you, and the place is beautiful and awesome display and really innovative. So congrats, basically, and we're looking forward to visiting you guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I have one final question. How active is the Maine Museum in exhibiting at mineral shows around the world?
We usually exhibit about 8 to 10 shows per year, a number of them right here in Maine and New England. but we have been exhibiting at Tucson since 2013, and we also have been a regular at Denver. We've passed the last couple of years because right as we were trying to rush to open in 2019. But Denver and Tucson, Cincinnati, Rochester Symposium, and then quite a number here in Maine.
Wonderful. I love to hear that you're so active. So thank you so much for joining our show. For all our viewers out there, tune into Blue Cap Productions YouTube channel. Tomorrow we are going to be releasing the episode 44. That was the interview that we did with Shelley Sargent from Somewhere in the Rainbow. And that was an absolutely wonderful episode that was filmed back on April 21st, 2021. That will go live tomorrow. And tune in next week. We're going to have Nikolai Medvedev, the Intarsia artist from Tucson. Also, he has a home base in New York, but he is going to be joining us for a wonderful, wonderful view of the incredible artwork that he does. Barbara, Carl, thank you so much for coming on the show, for taking us through the museum. I personally can't wait. We have to do like a world Mineral Talks Live tour where the three of us get to visit all these great places and meet, face to face with the people that we're interviewing. I can't wait till I get a chance to come out to Maine and take a look at the museum there.
Love some lobster.
Thanks so much.
Love
My parting song, Brian, is "We Will Rock You." We will
rock you, and you are the champion.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you again for joining, for being on the show. For all your viewers out there, thank you for tuning in. We'll check you out next week. Have a fantastic week and a safe Cinco de Mayo. Oh, and one last thing before we forget, everybody, let's wish Raquel a happy birthday. Her birthday is coming up Friday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
All right, everybody. Take care. Aloha.